Welcome to Poetry and Poets with SueAn Stradling Collins, Director of the Apache County Library District. This week, I'm not hiding behind any books of poetry or poetry itself, because I want to talk to you about performance poetry, which is a little bit different. It's very current, something that's happening a great deal right now. It's all over YouTube, and I'm not going to include any links or anything like that. I'm not even going to read you any poems today. I'm just going to tell you about performance poetry and give you a few of the poets that I have found very interesting of late. And I would encourage you to go to YouTube and put in performance poetry, or maybe to look up some of these poets. Performance poetry is just what it sounds like. Poetry is meant to be heard. Poetry is meant to be read aloud. And so those words need to be spoken that are written on the page. Some poets read their work beautifully. Maya Angelou, just amazing to listen to her read her poetry, and I recommend that you do so. I have heard some poets who read their own work in a very affected way, and it makes me crazy. And I don't like listening to them as they pause in strange places and so forth. But it's their poetry, and I guess they get to do what they want to with it. But performance poetry it flows and often talks about issues, things that are happening today. It is meant for a younger crowd generally. It began with a poet named Mark Smith. And in 1987, he was a construction worker, and he wanted to take poetry out of academia pretty much and to put it in front of the people. So he started holding poetry slams. And a poetry slam is a competition where you perform your poetry in front of an audience and in front of judges, and they give a winner, an award to a winner at the end of the evening. Poetry slams still happen. Of course, we live in a rural area, so I don't think there are too many of them around here, but you can find them, like I said, on YouTube and so forth. There are open mic nights in bigger cities. I know that we've tried doing that at the Round Valley Public Library last year before COVID, that we tried an open mic night. We might be doing that again in the district. But poetry is meant to be heard. And so I would hope that you would go to YouTube and find some of these poets. If you did watch President Biden's inauguration, you heard Amanda Gorman read a poem, and she had actions that she used as she did that. She was performing that poem on purpose. She is a performance poet also. I recommend looking at her poetry. Another one that I just found recently is George the Poet. Very interesting. Talks about COVID and different things. Has a lot to say. Very enjoyable. But my favorite that I have found recently is a man named Rudy Francisco. Please listen to some of his poetry. One of the ones that I like best of his is I'm Not a Love Poet. I think it's something like the title. And it's really fabulous to watch. So this week, I'm recommending to you performance poetry. Please find some and enjoy it, or find whatever poetry you enjoy and read it aloud so that you hear those words, because that was the intention, or is the intention, of poets. Until next week, have a great one.